Hey babes, welcome to the Happiness Heals channel. My name is Tiffany. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back friends. Today I'm doing a special video to show you some of the unique and similar characteristics of the new Tombow color dot markers, as well as the clean color dot markers by Zig. And I'm sure most of us are familiar with this brand, but I actually came across this brand as well on Amazon and wanted to compare the two. So we're going to open up both sets of 12 markers and do some color swatching on paper that I have here and see which one we like best and or whether or not they're pretty much the same. So let's check it out. All right, we'll start off with the Tombow Play Color Dot markers, and I'll include a link for these markers in the description below in case you're interested. And we're going to basically create a dot for each of the different colors and see how vibrant they are. And then I'm actually going to pull out a couple of my different planners to see about bleed through in terms of the paper quality. So let's start off with the color dots samples. So I like the packaging for this one. You can see all of the colors at once and they pretty much remind you almost of Crayola markers. I love that these are dual tip markers that include the dot side as well as a fine tip side on the other end. So we're not really going to play around too much with the fine tip side today. I'm pretty sure there are lots of videos out there about the different types of fine tip markers. I really want to focus more on the color dot side this time. I'm going to create a single dot for each of the colors, and that one's pretty. I thought this was going to be more of a red or rose, but it looks more orange on paper. And then this is pink. So the colors here are very vibrant and the dots are actually coming out pretty whole. I would say that you have to push though with a little bit of extra pressure just to make sure you get a full dot. And that could just be the characteristics of this type of marker. I haven't really used these before, but I want to just make sure I get full circles each time I use these. And let's see, that is orange, yellow. Oh, that yellow is really pretty and vibrant actually. I wasn't sure if you would see it, but it actually shows up well on paper. And then that is the green. And then that is the teal color. And I'm going to do a close-up once I finish all of these. So they make really nice round dots. There's not a lot of irregularity in the ink distribution, which is nice for most of these at least. And it's a good variety of colors. You have brown, you have gray or black, as some people may say, purple, blue, turquoise or sky blue, teal, green, gold, orange, peach, I guess, pink, and then it's supposed to be kind of a reddish pink color, which I would say is more like a rose color. Those are the different colors that come in the 12-pack set of the Tombow Play Color Dots, and they are really pretty, vibrant colors. They show up well on paper. This is just a tear off sheet from Erin Condren, so the paper quality is pretty thick, but not as probably thick as planner paper, so we're going to do an extra test in there as well. But these are the different colors. As you can see, they're very vibrant, very beautiful. There was a bit of bleed through onto the next page from the brown, and it looks like from the orange, so depending on how much you press through, that could be an issue. And then if you look at the back also, you can see where those two had the most bleed through in terms of the paper. So those are the Tombow markers. I'm going to put those to the side for a second. All right, and then I'm going to pull out these Zig markers. I've seen them all over Instagram and YouTube for people using them and loving them. So we're going to see if these are the same or possibly better than the Tombow one. So there are 12 in this set as well, a similar color variety in terms of the different colors that they offer. And these colors have actually a number to them versus names, so you can see that at the top of the packaging. Alright, so let's start off. Oh, actually it's interesting because the tips on these are quite a bit different than the tips on the Tombows. Let me pull out the brown so you'll see. There's more of a round puff tip on this one. And there's more of a flat tip on the Tombow dot marker. So that is an interesting change. Let's see if that makes a difference in terms of the way it creates dots. It's a lot softer. These actually also have the fine tip on the other side. I want to say this fine tip looks a little bit thicker than the one on the Tombow markers. Yeah, it definitely is thicker. And you know what? I'll do a couple of swatches of that too before I switch to my planners, just so you get an idea. We have gold. Oh, that one's pretty too. These circles, well, I guess actually you can create the circles a little bit bigger or smaller using this one than with the Tombows. The Tombows pretty much have a standard circle size just because it has that flat surface and a particular round shape, whereas these are more of a puff, so you can kind of add the amount of pressure that you need in order to create the side circle that you want. That's something to keep in mind. That's a pretty navy blue. We don't have that with the Tombows. And oh, that's more of the rose color. That is really pretty. I like that. And that's your pink. Okay, so these are the Zig markers and the circles they create. As you can see, the circles vary in size. You can press lightly to get a smaller one or a lot harder to get a more larger one. But they all still seem to come out very circular. There's no bleed through. Well, there's a little bit, I guess, from the blue marker, but not quite as much as we saw with the Tombow one. So that is something to consider. And then if you look at the back, that blue one, and that probably pressed a bit hard with that one, is the only one that really bled through significantly. But that is what the Zig markers look like. I'm going to put them side by side so you can see some of the differences in color. So these are the Zig markers, and as I mentioned, they come in a nice range of different colors, some more unique or different than the Tombow version. And then these are the Tombow markers, and they come in a nice variety of colors as well. As you can see with the Zig markers, you can create your circles in varying sizes, whereas with the Tombows, because they have the flat surface, they pretty much create the same size circle consistently. So that's something to consider. Also, the color differences. I don't know if these Zig markers come in other variety packs. I know they do sell smaller sizes, so you could get like a 6-pack of these markers. So there may be other colors out there if you were looking for one similar to the Tombows. But this is just showing you in the standard 12-pack packages what you get and what the different colors look like for both brands. I wouldn't say I have a preference so much for one or the other. It really depends more on what you're using them for. So I would say that the Tombow markers are probably better for planning, because if you want your planner to have a very consistent, even look when you're creating your dots for checking things off, then these would give you that. Whereas the Zig markers would be good for planning as well as like artwork. If you were to create pictures and things like that using these dots, you could create them in different sizes, dimensions, probably even varying shades, depending on how much pressure you use and the way you actually use the dots. So that is something to consider. Looking at the writing on the Tombow and the Zig, it actually looks like they both write pretty much the same, even though the barrel of the Zig markers looked a little bit bigger. The actual printing of the fine tip side looks about the same. And I know it might be a little bit hard with the Zig because I used a green color, but they're very similar in terms of thickness and vibrancy of color. So that's something also to consider. So those are my color swatches for using both of these markers. I'm now going to pull out my Live Rich planner just to give you an example of what it looks like for these markers to be used in a planner and how much bleed through you might have in terms of your pages. So I'm actually going to use my 2020 Live Rich planner as a sample here. I'm just going to turn to a random page where I know I don't have anything. Yeah, on the pages. And then I'm going to do a sample here on both of these lines just to show you what it looks like in terms of using the dots in your planner, as well as any bleed through that you may have from using each brand. So these are the Tombow markers. I'm going to try to use consistent pressure with all of them. I honestly love the vibrancy of these colors. They are so pretty. And that one I smudged a little bit unintentionally. So those are the Tombow markers, and now I'm going to put the Zig markers down the bottom. And you can see right away that they can create much bigger dots if needed. Alright, and these are the Zig dots. So that shows you how they actually look in a planner. As you can see, the colors are very bright and vibrant for both of the brands. I'm going to flip the page just to see if there's bleed through. There's a little bit. I would say more up top with the Tombow markers actually, and less down here with the Zig markers. The blue one is the only one that really seems to bleed through in that brand. The other brand with the Tombow, there seems to be a bit more bleed through with several of the colors for that one. So that's something to consider. I recommend the Tombow markers more for planning. If you're looking to create consistent dots throughout your planner, this is great more for planning purposes. Now, the Zig markers actually are really cool in the sense that you can create different size dots for varying purposes, and that could be useful even in planning. For example, if you were to create a priority list and you wanted to create smaller circles to show things that are less prioritized, and then larger circles to show things that are more prioritized, you could do that. Also, if you're creating art using the dot, like doodling for doodling purposes and things like that, this allows you to create circles in various different sizes. So depending on the pressure and the angle, you get a circle that looks quite a bit different, which may be helpful. The circles here, as you can see, and I was trying to really use the same amount of pressure, are still different in terms of the consistency of size when using the Zig marker. So that's something to consider. As I mentioned before, the Zig markers, though, do not bleed through as much. So that's also something to consider with your planners. If you know the paper quality is on the lighter side, meaning more likely to potentially bleed through, then I would go with the Zig markers because they seem to have less bleed through. However, if you have a thicker paper, then the Tombow ones may be more appropriate because they have really vibrant color when you add them to the page. So those are all things that I would definitely consider when you're looking at these different markers. And let me know in the comments below if you purchased either one and if you have a preference. Also, let me know if there are other things that you would like me to explore using these markers in future videos. I hope you like this video, and if so, please give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you'll be informed the very next time we have something to share on the Happiness Heals channel. Take care, friends.